Okay. Well, for those who you don't know, Bill Ward is our state executive, our executive vice president of the Home Builders Association of Illinois, our chief lobbyist, and I think he also locks the doors at the association office. He does it all. But today we're here to talk about what legislation's in Springfield. And so Bill's going to go through a few of the key bills, but I think because it's a small group, let's make sure that if you got a question, don't hesitate to ask it. I don't think we need to use chat. Maybe if you want to raise your hand, that's great. We'll see you. But just, Bill, why don't you kind of take a few minutes to talk about key things, and then we'll go into Q&A.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me today. I appreciate these Zoom calls, and hopefully there'll be a day where we get to get back together face to face very soon, and we can talk about these things. The Illinois General Assembly is at the halfway point in session. They start in January and they go through the end of May. All the bills that have been introduced in the House had to be out of committee by last Friday. Same thing with Senate bills in the Senate. They are now on a 2-week Easter break, and then they will come back in starting on April 13th, and they'll go pretty much every day until the end of May. The year started very poorly for the state of Illinois due to the fact that the fiscal year 21 budget was based in part on the passage of a constitutional amendment that would allow for a tax increase. Basing a budget on a constitutional amendment passing is like starting a football season without a quarterback, and you just don't do that. But the Bears have been doing it for 100 years, right? But it just
had to get that in there, didn't you, Bill?
I'm a Bears fan.
Oh, okay.
But they didn't. I mean, it wasn't even close. In order to pass a constitutional amendment in Illinois, it requires 60% vote. This amendment that required would have made a graduated income tax like the federal government has, and 37 other states have, failed to pass it only got 45% of the vote. So it was going to lose under just any scenario. So there you have, now you have a very irritated governor who is out to serve revenge to all those groups that opposed his amendment and his tax increase, including Home Builders Association of Illinois. You know, we've already seen some things that are cooking in the governor's office that would make you believe that he's going to do that. Before we get into legislation, I'll just go to, I can make one example of this, is that the Labor Relations Board is made up of 9 commissioners and one chairman appointed by the governor, not by rule, but by habit. There's been 3 appointed by organized labor, 3 appointed by business groups, and 3 appointed by that are members of the general public. Just this past week, the appointments came out. There were no appointments from the business side of things. They were all organized labor appointments. So this is the board that decides things like what is considered to be what I want to say, covered by your different insurance policies. And so your workers' comp insurance policy last year, the governor wanted to include that workers' comp included, it was assumed that you got COVID-19 at the workplace, that was going to raise workers' comp rates by 300%. Workers' comp was estimated it would go from $4 billion a year in Illinois to $12 billion a year. The Labor's Relation Board stopped that from happening. So if he were to decide to do this again, I don't know that there's anything to stop him from doing that. So it's little things like that that nobody really knows about, that the governor can have fun with, that could really be very detrimental to not only the housing industry, but the whole economics of the state of Illinois. So these kinds of things are happening right now. So so we go into session. We've gotten through the committee deadline now, and here's some of the things that are still alive. Oh, and by the way, some people ask me what's it like to work in the Illinois General Assembly or work around it, and my description is this: is that the State House is designed kind of like the United States Capitol. You got the House and Senate side, and there's a dome in the middle, but it operates a lot more like your city council. Majority rule doesn't always have its day. There's many decisions that are made unilaterally by the leaders in the House and Senate, and so and committees just pop up out of nowhere. Bills pop up out of nowhere. It is definitely not as structured as the way things are run in Washington, and it's probably a lot more close to how things are run at the Addison City Council. So with that, okay, the first bill that we have is House Bill 804, sponsored by Ann Williams, and this is the Clean Energy Jobs Act. And this is our #1 bill of opposition for this session. This is just a terrible bill. This will require electric car chargers in all parking spaces on new home construction and remodeling. It also allows municipalities to go beyond the state's energy conservation code, which was a deal that we struck in 2009, to adopt a stretch energy code that requires homes to be built with a site energy index of 50% lower than the 2006 Energy Conservation Code. And that's just for starters. Then 2 years after it's enacted, then you got to be 40% below the 2006. And 2 years after that, you got to be 30%, 70% lower than the 2006 ECC. So they have done nothing to illustrate how we are supposed to get that done. Not a thing. And they've also put into this bill that credits for the site energy index, credits for geothermal heating and solar panels will not be given to get to that index. And that's basically how you're going to get there. So nobody's really illustrated to us how they're going to do it. The sponsor of the bill has said this bill's been vetted and all sides have been communicated to. They have not. And she got this bill out on partisan roll call in Energy and Environment. And in two weeks, it will be considered on the House floor. You will be receiving from me talking points and a position paper, and I'll be asking you to call your legislators and ask them to vote no. I don't want you to send an email. I don't want you to, well, if you got their text message, if you got their cell phone, text them but call them. This is a very important bill for us. The only other state that has passed the stretch energy code is the state of Massachusetts last year. And only one community so far has passed the ordinance to go beyond the ECC, and that is Brookline, Massachusetts. Oregon is going through, state of Oregon has the same issue right now. we're sharing notes with them as to how they are battling this issue. Pat Coveney brought up a really good point for opposition on this bill, going back to the car charger issue. He's read an article where they're planning on having electric battery stations in the future, like you would a gas station. So when your batteries run out, you pull into a station, trade batteries, and get back on the road. So that his point in telling me this was that a car charger may not be something you necessarily need. It would be like having a gas pump at your home when there's a gas station available. So there's a lot of things that really need to be aired out on this bill that have not been talked about. It does have a sister bill in the Senate, which did not come out of committee just by design. I think it's back. They just didn't call it. But anyway, this is our number one point of opposition. If we were having a lobby day in 2 weeks, this would be the main thing that I would have you talk about. We will be getting this information out to you shortly, and we'll be asking you to contact as many legislators as possible, whether you know them or not. I just need you to make those calls, okay? Because I know that's very important up in the greater Chicago area. I mean, north of I-80 is 80% of all the legislators in the state. And there's a lot of districts where we have nobody living in those districts. So we got to go ahead and make those calls. Don't assume that they are going to vote for this. I think there are some Democratic legislators who are going to have some problems with this bill. And we'll see, and we'll try to make this as close as possible. Problem we have is that in the Illinois House, they have the Democrats have a super majority. And hang on just a second. Okay, had a dogfight going. The Democrats have a super majority in the House. They have 73 House members to 45 Republicans. So they need 60 votes to pass this. So we're going to have to knock out 13. We're going to have to knock out 14 Democratic votes in order to stop this bill from going forward. And that's going to be a hill to climb. Okay. Any questions about that bill? Okay. All right. Second big bill, House Bill 116, sponsored by Will Gazzardi from Chicago. It repeals the current state statute that prohibits localities from imposing rent control ordinances. Let me state that again. Right now in the state of Illinois, municipalities cannot even talk about doing rent control. And because of a state statute that was passed in the 1990s, prohibiting rent control altogether. So House Bill 116, it doesn't impose rent control, but it will allow municipalities to ordain rent control if they so choose. So this is a bill that got out on once again on a partisan roll call out of the Illinois Housing Committee, and will hit the House floor. And you know, actually, the sponsor does a pretty good job of selling this bill. He's saying, "I'm not imposing rent control here. I am just allowing municipalities the opportunity just to talk about it. They may decide they don't want rent control, and that so be it. And that's a pretty good argument. So we'll see where we get on this. We've defeated it a couple times in the past, but I think this is another bill where its time has come. So it'll be a tough one to beat back here in the next 2 weeks. Any questions on that bill? Okay. Believe it or not, there's some bills we like. House Bill 1932, sponsored by Tony McCombie. She's over on the Mississippi River above the Quad Cities. It allows units of local government to waive any fees for permits and inspections for construction after a natural disaster. We support that. House Bill 2559, Representative Mazzocchi, provides that in the city of Chicago, a contractor having permission to construct by the property owner shall not be denied approval to construct due to an aldermanic objection. We support that, and believe it or not, that bill got out of committee with some Democratic support, which tells me that city of Chicago hasn't woke up yet. And this is a good bill for our builders in Chicago. And hopefully we can get this out of the House and into the Senate in the next couple of weeks. Any questions on that bill? Okay. If there's any interior designers out there, House Bill 1738 extends the Registered Interior Designers Registration Act to December 31st, 2032. And we're in favor of that bill because otherwise, if it weren't for it being a registration act, it might be a practice act. A portion of interior designers in the state of Illinois have for years pushed for interior designers to have a practice act. And what that means to a home builder is that you couldn't get your plans permitted unless you had an interior designer seal of approval on the plans. We don't think that's necessary, and we've always opposed this. So because this is just re-upping the Registration Act, which just says you got to do certain things in order to call yourself an interior designer, we support this measure and hope it goes forward. And it did get out on a bipartisan roll call out of Labor Committee. House Bill 246 creates the Landscape Architects Registration Act. We don't have any problems with this bill. There was a problem last year with landscape architects wanting to take away things that are done by landscape contractors, and we sided with the landscape contractors. So they're just re-upping their Registration Act to 2032, and we're fine with that bill. Let's see. And finally, a Senate bill, LG Sims, provides that a zoning ordinance cannot prohibit a residential construction of an industrialized residential structure. Provides that a zoning ordinance cannot prohibit a residential construction of an industrial residential structure or manufactured home in a subdivision that is compatible with the character or the development of that subdivision, meets aesthetic compatibility, and meets applicable standards for exterior design. So he's got three conditions there. It can't just be, you can't just pull in a trailer, a mobile home into a nice new subdivision. And we're neutral on this bill right now. I don't think LG got this bill out of committee, and we'll see if it goes any further. I doubt it this year. Okay, we had several bills. I'll go quickly through some bills that were held in committee that might pop up as amendments on other bills later on during session. House Bill 567 expands the use of the Vacant Lot Act to allow a developer to sell a developed lot to a builder, and that vacant lot tax benefit would transfer to the builder, which would keep your taxes way down while you're waiting to construct a home on that piece of property. We passed that bill 10 years ago, and it had a sunset of 3 years, and we haven't been able to pass it again. And somebody's got a brick on it. I guess it's the Municipal League, because our sponsor was Sam Yingling, who was the chairman of the subcommittee that where the bill was sent to. So it's got a brick right now, and we'll see if we can't get it off later on down the line. House Bill 798 allows NICET level 2 inspectors for fires to inspect fire sprinkler systems. We're in support of that. There's state statute right now that says in the next couple of years it will go to NICET level 3, and basically you got to go through the labor union halls in order to get the NICET level 3 designation. So their plan is to be able to control all this inspectors, and then provide some problems with non-union contractors down the line who are putting in fire sprinkler systems. So we're in support of House Bill 798 by Kathleen Willis. House Bill 2927, sponsored by Dan Mazzocchi, freezes zoning regulations after plat approval. So once you get your plat approval, they cannot change the rules on you in midstream. We passed this bill for remodelers maybe 15 years ago. I remember there's a remodeler who was past president of ours, Pat Franz, was right in the middle of doing a remodeling job, and the city he was in changed their plumbing code, and they had him rip all of his drywall out so they could re-inspect his plumbing so that it met the new code. And with that, that's when we came to the General Assembly and passed legislation saying, once you have your permit, the code's frozen and you can't change it. And this is along those same lines. So hopefully we can get that going later on during session. House Bill 117, Will Gazzardi. Most of you already provide your employees with a 401k or other type of retirement program. But if you don't, you would have to, House Bill 117, you would have to provide for your employees entry into the Secure Choice Program, which is a state program that sets up a kind of like a 401k that's run by the state of Illinois. This bill is already actually in state statute for businesses with 50 or more employees. This bill would lower the threshold down to 5. So that gets just about everybody. This bill did not get out of committee, but we're going to keep an eye on it. I like this bill, House Bill 702, once again by Mazzocchi. Allows monthly installment payments on unemployment insurance payments. We support that, but that didn't go anywhere. A very bad bill, House Bill 2555, creates state standards for household appliances. So right now there's national standards for your appliances. Illinois could tack on to that. Now, what manufacturer is going to abide by Illinois standards, and how long will it take to get appliances in the state of Illinois if we start having our own little nuances to home appliances? So we're very much opposed to that. It did not get out of committee. We're going to keep an eye on that. House Bill 2767 is a very bad bill, and while it did not get out of committee last week, something's going to happen here soon. It provides for third-party appeals on all EPA permits. If you go for a water sewer permit, if you're going for any sort of wetland permit, your permit would be held by the department for 90 days to allow for public input on your permit. this could really be bad. This really slows things down. When they write a bill like this, it's probably they're thinking about the construction of a factory or something, a big box store or something like that. I don't think they think of a 10-lot subdivision or anything like that. Oh, anyway, this bill is in Labor Committee. I think it's a very bad bill, but I think it's going to get out of committee even after the deadline. So we'll be keeping an eye on that one. That's House Bill 2767, sponsored by Teresa Ma. House Bill 3492, sponsored by Marty Moylan, a Democrat from Des Plaines. This is a very bad bill, and I think the realtors have a brick on this. It allows forced annexations and allows localities to write their own rules on disconnection of real estate. So right now there's certain specific rules on annexations, 1.5-mile rule and so forth, and the municipalities have to abide by it. And there's also a landowner has to meet 4 qualifications in order to disconnect property from a municipality where the land has been annexed. And disconnections do happen, but they only happen if the land is vacant and bare for the most part. This would allow the municipality just to write in that once annexed, they can never they could never disconnect. And with the new, more liberal regulations for annexations, you're going to see some real big annexation wars go on with some of your suburban municipalities should this pass. This bill came about due to a particular lawsuit, but I'm not privileged to know which lawsuit it is. But anyway, the realtors have always taken the lead on bills dealing with annexation and dealing with especially with disconnect. And I made a call. They've had sort of a changing of the guard over at the realtors here in the last few months. I made a call over there and just sort of woke them up on this issue. I said, you guys usually oppose this one and get this one killed. And so the young lobbyist over there made a call to the legislator, and he decided not to call it. And so it's amazing how that works. So good for him, and good for the realtors, and good for the home builders that call got made. House Bill 774, flowers. This is going to be a big issue from now to the end of session. It's the Paid Family Leave Act. It creates all sorts of different ways that an employer would still have to pay an employee for family leave. And I mean, and that could include, and it's not just for an employee being sick or an employee's child being sick. It could be to go visit to go visit a family member who may be a resident of your local correction center, and different things like that. So that you may have a problem with paying for. So that would greatly increase the cost of doing business in the state of Illinois, and we are joined by about 50 other business groups in opposing that. Another bill that has been introduced several times in the last few years that did not make it out of committee, House Bill 860, sponsored by Will Davis of Chicago, allows assessors to assess rental property based not only on the value of the property, but also on the income it produces. And there's really no rules on how that assessment happens. So the assessor would just have free rein on deciding what your property taxes are going to be based on the income you will now have to provide to the assessor the income you make on the rental property you own, and then they'll assess on that. This bill has not gotten out of committee. It's very highly opposed by the home builders, the realtors, Building Owners and Managers Association, the Apartment Owners Association, and so forth. But it's always out there and it's always percolating. Senate bills that were held in committee. The Senate President is Don Harmon. He has a bill, Senate Bill 120, which would allow local governments to impose their own local government fuel tax. Some ways I like this bill, because if a local government were to have a fuel tax, maybe they wouldn't have roadway impact fees. And maybe that'd be a good amendment to that bill. If you have a local motor fuel tax, you can't impose impact fees. Let me get back to you on that one. But right now we oppose that because we're just fed up with taxation in the state of Illinois. Senate Bill 1972 creates a state wetlands protection program that's sponsored by Senator Laura Fine. She's had this bill for several years. This is a different bill than what she's had in the past, but it's still a bad bill. We oppose it. It's opposed by the Farm Bureau, thank God, and a lot of other business groups. Senate Bill 1778 is the sister bill to the bill in the House that creates a mandate for electric car chargers and also the stretch energy code. We'll keep an eye on that, but it did not get out of committee. House Bill 3530, sponsored by Carol Ammons from Urbana, eliminates Illinois as an at-will state. It requires employers to discharge employees for only just cause. There's only one other state in the country that is a just cause state, and it is either Montana or Wyoming. So it's really strange, but this is a labor initiative. Did not get out of committee yet, but I'm expecting this bill to pop up somewhere else. So the bill, it's written into the bill the different conditions you got to have in order to let somebody go. But basically, right now, Illinois is an at-will state with 48 other states. You can fire somebody at will, but if this passes, you're going to have good reason. And I think there is a time frame to let somebody go as well. House Bill 3898, Jehan Gordon Booth from Peoria provides employees with 40 hours paid sick leave for a 12-month period or a pro rata number of hours for less than 12 months. We're opposing that right now. We think there's a way to get to an agreement on this bill. The State Chamber of Commerce is taking the lead on this issue. While it may not be agreed to yet, I'm expecting something to happen on this bill either this year or next on that issue. And then finally, one of my favorite little issues is last year when they raised the motor vehicle plate license fees by $100. One of the fees that went up was those little trailers that you pull around that pulls maybe equipment for construction equipment or lawnmowers or whatever. Those little trailers that carry 3,000 pounds or less, those license plates went from $18 to $118 a year. Senate Bill 1660, sponsored by Senator Pat Joyce from outside Kankakee, allows a one-time $118 payment for a permanent trailer license plate or $18 a year. Now that bill hasn't gotten out yet. We support it. Hopefully we can get somewhere with it later on down the line. That is what we're looking at right now. There'll be more later. The good stuff usually doesn't come out till about the last couple of weeks of May, right, Paul? If you have any questions about any of these bills, my cell phone number is available to any of you, 494-8143. My email address is billward@hbai.org. Write me if you have any questions, and write me if you got any good ideas on legislation that would be beneficial to your business. I'm always looking for those things. And I always appreciate hearing and seeing those. Also, I want to get a commercial in. It's almost Final Four time. HomePack, the political arm of Home Builders Association of Illinois, is having a 50-50 raffle for the Final Four for the NCAA championship men's basketball game. If you go to hbai.org, scroll down and find the NCAA championship game, hit that, you go to run your pool, and you can choose however many squares you want to play in the to participate in this 50-50 raffle. Winners will be $500 for having the correct halftime score, or $500 for the reverse halftime score, and $750 for the correct final score, and $750 for the reverse final score. Each square costs $50. Half the money will go to HomePack, which helps us do good things in Springfield for the housing industry. Are there any questions?
Didn't have much to talk about, did you, Bill?
No.
Okay, well, anybody want to jump in there, please do. We've got about 10-15 minutes here, and we'll take up as much of Bill's time as we can. Come on, this is not usually a shy group. Let's go. Justin, you've got a question. I can see on your face.
I do. I was more interested in the rent control issue. So it's just basically they are allowing cities to entertain that. Is that, or are they going to regulate it somehow? Or do they put max or mins on those?
There's the only thing that's right now in state statute, there is a law that says municipalities are prohibited from mandating rent control. And what this bill does, House Bill 116 does, is it repeals that prohibition. There's no state regulation over it. Cities would be able to do whatever they want to do. Maybe they'll do rent control like the city of San Francisco, or maybe it'd be something in between that and nothing. But right now, all this bill does is repeal the statute that prohibits it from even being considered. It's kind of a double negative. I know, and it's kind of hard to understand, but right now we've got it really, really good. And if this bill passes, then we're going to be on our toes at the local level whenever a rent control issue comes up. How many municipalities go after rent control in Illinois? I don't know. I can think of one though.
Chicago.
And, yeah, and probably a couple of others, but
Oak Park and Evanston will be right there too.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yep. Right. So, I can see it coming, but this will be a tough one for us to keep down.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Hey, Billy, the good old Ann Williams and her energy committee and in the car chargers in the garages and so on and so forth. Do you think that thing has a chance? I mean, I'm scared about that. I mean, it's going to add cost to the housing, which is cost of housing is going absolutely ballistic right now too.
Yeah.
Was there any caveats in there about renovating and remodeling, percentage wises? I didn't see anything. I didn't read the entire bill, but or is it just new construction?
No, it says for new construction and remodeling.
Yeah.
And I'll have to go back and read if there's a definition for remodeling.
Yeah, that's what I was concerned. Is it 50%? You know, we've had this with the sprinklers over the years. You know, do we do larger than 50% addition? We have to sprinkler the whole thing, blah, blah, blah. You know, how do they calculate it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's expensive.
Yeah. Well, they don't even define parking spaces in this bill. So if you have a driveway with, you know, a long driveway, do you have to have, you know, electric car chargers all along the drive?
Yeah, I know. It's
Yeah. When we had NHB research this bill, and that's one of the things that they came up with, is that there's no definition for this
Right.
or remodeling.
which is very dangerous.
Yeah. So this is usually one of those really silly bills that somehow we get defeated. But we have a new Speaker of the House, and I don't know if he's even got the ability to stop this if he wanted to. So
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, scary.
Yeah. So you better buy that raffle square.
Yeah, I already did, buddy.
Okay.
I bought more than one.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Nate or Anatoly, do you have any issues that you're concerned about?
No, but this is a great update overall. It's fantastic.
Okay. All right.
I actually have.
Be happy
I
to do
actually
that.
have one more question on the stretch code. If that were to pass, did you say that was up to the municipality then to adopt, or would that be statewide, like the actual energy code?
It would be up to the municipality to do.
And what are your thoughts? I mean,
Otherwise, you would be the state ECC would still be the rule for the municipality.
okay, so then we would still at least be hopeful that the municipalities that you're working in don't adopt that stretch code.
Right. And the thing is that this particular language amends the Energy Code Act. So, and we have in there that if a municipality is abiding by, municipalities right now do not have to inspect for ECC. There's a long explanation as to why they don't, and would require too much time for me to go into it. But municipalities don't have to inspect for this. And right now, this bill doesn't say they do for the stretch energy code either. So they could mandate the stretch energy code, make you liable for things that are at best new design that hasn't really had time to be perfected, and you'll be liable because they don't inspect it.
Right. Yeah.
So this is a really bad bill. This is a 900-page bill. 850 of it has more to do with the utility companies. So the whole focus is on the utility companies, and we're over here in the corner waving our hands, trying to tell people there's a big deal in here, 45 pages worth of stuff that greatly affects housing, and nobody's paying attention. And you have a sponsor that says she's already talked to us and everything's okay.
So it was hidden in a bigger building.
Yeah. So
and what was that bill number? I'm sorry.
House Bill 804. And you can look up all this stuff if you're interested in looking at any of this legislation. You can go to the state of Illinois website, General Assembly website. It's ILGA.gov. ILGA.gov. And just start, you'll see where you can input bill numbers, and you can read the synopsis of the bills. You can read the full text. You can read the amendments. You can see who's sponsoring it. It's really good website for all of that. And all of these bills I've talked about today just came out Monday on my 2-minute warning. And you can print those bills out if you're needing a printout of the bills I just talked about.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, well, Bill, I appreciate your time, and it's been a pleasure to learn all these things that our
Yeah.
new legislature is trying to do to us. But it is a reminder that if we don't stay vigilant, and if you're not vigilant in Springfield, and if we're not responsive back here in Chicago, some of this bad stuff gets through. So
Yeah.
when you come out with your request for people to act, we really need people to pick up the phone or make the phone call or send the text or send the email, whatever it takes. And like you say, even people you don't know, they need to hear from you. They need to know there are people out there concerned. But thank you very much, Bill. Appreciate it. And thank you everyone for giving us your lunchtime to talk politics.
No problem.
All
Anytime.
right.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Billy.
Everybody.
Yeah.